Ever since TCL announced that they'd be launching their mini LED TVs in their 8 series TV, then I have been so excited to see just how it compares to the other competition out there. Now I finally have the TV here in my room, so I wanted to see how it compares to an OLED TV, and I hope you do too. So stick around. Perfect. Hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and all-around tech lover. And if you're new to the channel, then on this channel we bring you the tech of entertainment. So we do unboxings, demos, comparisons like this one, tips, as well as real-world reviews of the tech that entertains you, so you can find the best devices and get the most out of them. So if you're into that, then hit the subscribe button and come along for the ride. And I know you're into that because you're already here, so subscribe. Now the TCL 8 series launched in November 2019 at around $2,000 for the 65-inch version and $3,000 for the 75-inch version. But we have the 65-inch version here, and if you are looking at OLED TVs, then they come in at pretty much the same price for a 65-inch version. So here I have the Sony A8G OLED TV, which is another TV with a gorgeous picture, so I figured I would compare them. Now if you see my Samsung Q90R to LG C9 comparison, then you'll know that this is not really how I compare them. I actually compare them on a vertical plane, not a horizontal plane, because then I can do some pretty fancy things. What are those things? Well, just wait and see. So if you're not aware of what a mini LED TV is, well, the mini LED TVs are what create the backlight for the TV. So traditionally in a full array local dimming TV, the backlight would be separated into zones. So in the case of, say, the Samsung Q90R QLED TV, now that would have 490 zones, which are basically small squares that make up the screen backlight, and then they will light up to actually produce the bright part of the picture. And when the picture doesn't need a bright object on the screen, like a dark shadow or what have you, then it would not turn on, and that would increase the contrast performance. In the case of this TV, it has over 25,000 mini LEDs, and those mini LEDs are grouped into clusters of 28, and they make up the 900 local dimming zones that this TV has. So you can see why I was excited. This is of course the first of its type for a consumer level TV, so that is especially why I was excited to see how it compares to an OLED TV. This video will also be in 4K HDR, so you can watch it in HDR on your newer iPhone or Android devices and your 4K HDR TVs, of course. But shooting in hybrid log gamma HDR makes the process more complicated and more time consuming, but I think the final result is worth it, so I hope you enjoy it. I also have another full array local dimming QLED TV that I want to compare this one to, but that video is for another day, so you have to come back for that one. Alright, let's get into it. We'll start things off with an especially difficult test, especially for any TV that has a full array local dimming backlight, and that is a star field. Now this test consists of a completely black background with the stars acting as point brightness. And as you can see, the TCL starts the scene later and ends it sooner, so that's an indication of some aggressive contrast management and some resulting black crush. Now let's combine the images from both TVs for an even closer direct comparison. Both TVs will have the exact same source, a Sony UBP X800 Mark II Blu-ray player, which then splits the signal using my Denon receiver, which goes to both TVs. So they have the exact same signal, so any differences that we see will be a result of the TVs themselves. In this next test, we'll see that juddering isn't really a problem for any of these TVs, and they both have settings that can manage and minimize it. Now both TVs are in their most accurate picture preset, and that's Cinema for the TCL and Cinema Home for the Sony. Both TVs have contrast management settings which determines how they handle shadows and highlights. The Sony has advanced contrast enhancer which ranges from off to low to medium to high, while the TCL has local contrast which then determines how aggressive the backlight is, and that ranges from off to low to medium to high. And having the setting on either TV set to low or off results in a more flat, less contrasty image. And having it set to high results in a more contrasty image that pops off the screen with that HDR effect. But you do that at the risk of losing detail at either ends of the spectrum, so from highlight detail or resulting in some black brush like we saw earlier in the star field. So in this comparison, we'll be seeing how enabling and disabling those settings affect the overall picture quality. As we enable the local contrast setting on the TCL, then we can see that at each step the highlights get brighter relative to the shadows, resulting in a more contrasty image that pops. As you can see, the TV still maintains details in the highlights, but it does result in some black brush in the darker parts of the picture. Now let's see how the contrast settings compare side by side. There's actually more details in the shadows with the local contrast set to high, and the same is true for the highlights. I'm actually very impressed with the local contrast setting in practice. The colors on the mini LED are more vibrant, and greens are vibrant to the point of oversaturation even. Some people may or may not prefer this, but it results in an overall green tint to the picture. Here you can see just how much having the setting change from off to low improved the picture. Changing focus to the OLED, we can see where enabling the advanced contrast setting doesn't have as much impact on the picture as it does on the QLED. There are some improvements, but moving gradually from off to high isn't as apparent on the OLED as it is on the mini LED. Now let's look at these advanced contrast settings side by side and see how they compare. The Sony OLED has more realistic colors and better skin tones, and while overall the OLED maintains more details in the shadows, the mini LED has more detail in the highlights. The colors on the TCL are extra vivid and just pop a lot more. Again, there are those who like and dislike this kind of presentation. Oh, and plot twist, this entire comparison, I've been using the TCL in normal HDR mode. It also has a dark and a bright HDR mode, so let's see how the bright mode compares to the OLED. This setting is certainly more suitable for a bright room, but it maintains the same performance characteristics as I described in the video, except now it's just brighter. I also included movie clips of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Mission Impossible Fallout so you can actually see how the colors look in a movie and how pronounced the green tint on the mini LED is. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the conclusion and you found it useful. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. As far as my thoughts are concerned, well, I think the mini LED TV is seriously impressive. It has a problem with black crush at the moment because I think the backlight is a bit too aggressive, but that can be fixed in a future firmware update. As far as the picture relates to the OLED, I think it is some serious competition because not only is it vibrant and the color is saturated, but it has some really great contrast. Again, it comes at the expense of some black crush, but I'm hoping they can fix that. The TV gets really bright, and for those of you who are concerned with the overall luminance of OLED or potential burn-in, this would be a great option for you. But then again, the input lag on the TV is basically just okay. It's not great, but it's not bad either. Something like the LG C9 is a much better gaming TV. I'm actually really disappointed I couldn't compare it with the LG C9 because after all, I'm just a small channel and I can't just get these TVs whenever I want, unfortunately. But if all of you watching actually subscribe, then maybe the channel will get large enough so I can do things like that. Who knows? But I will also be comparing this TV to the Vizio P Series Quantum X because that's another QLED TV and it has 384 local dimming zones. So we'll see how those compare. And there's also the upcoming gaming comparison between these two TVs, again, because of course we have to compare movie performance and game performance. And that's interesting. So I said it in the unboxing of the A8G OLED that November is going to be a crazy month for comparisons, and that remains true. So make sure to come back for all of those and make sure those notifications are enabled so you know when I drop those videos. Another downside of the TCL is the viewing angles. It's not as good as an OLED TV, but that's to be expected from a VA panel LCD TV. Oh, and some shameless self-promotion news. We are having a merch sale to end all merch sale for Black Friday and by extension the entire month of November. So there is a 20% off everything in the merch store up until December 1st. Yes, you heard it right. 20% off. So if you like any of my t-shirts, this included, then definitely go there and get one for yourself or get two at that price. But really, getting stuff from the merch store helps me do comparisons like this because there are a lot more comparisons that I wish I could do, but I just can't at the moment. So visit the merch store and get something, and thank you for your support. Now back to the TVs. Now, they were not calibrated because I may be a TV reviewer, but I'm not a professional calibrator. So instead I use their cinema modes, which are the more accurate picture modes. Now, that's the way that a lot of people who buy these TVs are going to use them. Now, ideally you would have your TV calibrated, but we all know that many people will just buy a good TV and just use a setting that they like. That's just how most people use their TVs. But there are some settings that I could change on the mini LED to improve the overall picture, but I couldn't do that for this comparison because that would bring into question fairness because after all, I'm not a professional calibrator. So if this is the way that the manufacturers send out their TV, I think it's a better means or a better way to compare them. But that's it from me for now. Don't forget to like the video if you found it informative or entertaining, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Until next time, this has been your friend and neighborhood Villaman saying, peace.